Okay, so Rabbi say, I will now begin Pedicute, with Hashem's help. Yeah, so you don't have to turn the page. I have to turn the page, yeah, because I have a different Tanya. So, what happened? We spent a few prakim defining the Nefesh HaBahamis. We spent a few prakim defining the Nefesh HaLikis. Then we spent a Pedic, that was the one we just finished, defining the Molchama, which was the Nefesh HaLikis and the Nefesh HaBahamis. And now we're going to define the personalities, the people, the characters. Now you must understand something. Yeah, you must understand something. And of course you do understand it, and we did talk about it. But I'm talking about it again nevertheless. Yeah, there's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, which we all know. Eizehu Gibir, who is strong. Eizehu Asher, who is rich. Eizehu Chacham, who is wise. Eizehu Mechubet, who is honorable. Right? We all know the Mishnah. Yeah. What's the pshat in that Mishnah? Let's start with the easiest. Eizehu Asher, who is rich. How much money do you have to be rich? If I have $1 million and you have $2 million, am I rich? If I have $2 million and you have $3 million, am I rich? If I have $1 billion and you have $2 billion, am I rich? So when is a person rich? Of course, the answer to that question is, if I had $1 million in the bank, I'd be nishlecht. Yeah, not bad. I mean, $1 million is not that much money, but it's a start. It's epis. If I had $10 million, $100 million, what's up, Sher? I have a friend that always tells me, Parnoses vagoyim, vayidn is ashiris. He's a cute guy. Parnoses is whenever I speak to. Parnoses vagoyim, vayidn davlein ashiris. So how much is ashiris? How much is ashiris? Go with the 10 people. How much money do you want to be rich? So they'll give you different numbers. What's the Mishnah's kasha? What's the Mishnah's question? And the same. What's the Mishnah's question? What's the Mishnah's question? Given. What's the Mishnah's question? And the answer is, who is rich that you can't be richer? Who is wise that you can't be wiser? Who is strong that you can't be stronger? Who is honored that you can't be more honored? The Mishnah is saying, is there a gvir, is there a rich man, that the quality of his wealth is that nobody's richer than him? In other words, not how much money does he have. What's the state of wealth, the state of Ashidus, that you simply cannot exceed? Why? There's nobody richer. Richer than this, you cannot be. That's the Pshat Mishnah. Eizehu Asher. When is a person rich? But what's rich? You can't make it. You give him another dollar, he's not richer. Eizehu Chacham. Chacham means a wise person who's full of knowledge. Yeah. What's the Mishnah's frage? As much as a person knows, they could know more. It's a fact of life. Wie viel men soll nur nicht wissen, können wissen noch etwas. What does that Chacham? Chacham means a person who knows so much, it's not shayches that there should be an increase in his Chacham. And the same is true Gibir. And the same is true Mechubet. It's a funny question. The Mishnah says, we use words all the time. Oh, he's rich, he's smart, he's strong. No. Then you come to the next town, and you find, oh, compared to him, this rich man is a shnorer. And compared to him, this strong guy is a cholosh. Yeah? So then he wasn't rich in the first place. Why? It's relative, it's subjective. That's why the Mishnah gives the answers that it gives. When is a person so rich that he can meet the richest man in the world and he will not say, oh, compared to him I'm poor, if he's a samech b'chelke? That's the pshat of the Mishnah. When is a person so strong he can meet Oig Balachaboshen, he can meet Shimshon Agibir, he can meet Chvei Zver, and there's nobody stronger than him if he's a Kevish Yitzre. And you know what? It's very hard to argue with the Mishnah. The Mishnah is okay, yeah? The Mishnah says, I'm going to give you definitions that are not equivocal, that are not relative, they're absolute. A guy is rich, nobody can be richer than him. A guy is strong, no one can be stronger than him. A guy is wise, a guy is honored, nobody can be more wise and more honored than he. Right? We understand those criteria, right? What is this phenomenon called in Tanya? In Tanya, this is called Shem HaToya. A name which describes a condition, a personality. What's the opposite of Shem HaToya? So in Tanya we have the expression Shem HaMushal. Shem HaMushal means a barad name. You call a guy a tzaddik. Why? Noach ish tzaddik b'dei reisav. According to one Pshat and Rashi. When you lived in the times that are Mabel, and you were not involved in Chomos and all the other stuff, then you're a tzaddik b'dei reisav. So there's a Shem HaMushal, there's a borrowed allusion to tzaddik. Is a borrowed allusion to Chacham, Gibber, and Osher, and Mechubet. You see? But in other places in Chassidus, they don't say Shem HaToyar and Shem HaMurshal. They say Shem HaToyar and Shem HaPu'ula. We'll have it in Perek Tezvav, Mitzvah Hashem, in Tavshin Pei Beis. Chapter 15, 5 whole paragraph from now. What's the difference between the word Melech and Moilech? Chacham and Mischakim. Giber and Misgaber. What's the difference between saying he is a king and he is kinging? He is wise or he's coming up with ideas. He is strong or he's strengthening himself. The first is called Shem HaToyar. You're describing a condition. Or you would say it in Chassidus, even when he sleeps he's a king. Even when he sleeps he's a Gibber. Even when he sleeps he's a Chacham. Even when he sleeps he's a Mechubet. Even when he sleeps he's a Nosher. And the other is not describing who he is, but what he does. So one of the things which Alter Rebbe established in Tanya in the very beginning is that we're dealing with real labels, right? Ezehu Tzadik, Ezehu Beinani, and Ezehu Rosh. And you have to answer the question in such a way that you can't improve on it. Just like Ezehu Osher means you can't be richer than that Osher. Ezehu Tzadik means you can't be more Tzadik than that Tzadik. Ezehu Rosh means you can't be more Rosh than that Rosh. So the Alter Rebbe sets out not to give us Toyarim Mushaliyim or Toyarim connected to Pu'ulis. But what Alter Rebbe says in the first Perek, based on judgment, a person is judged according to the majority of his deeds. The Tanya wants to give absolute definitions, to translate words that are true no matter where you live and no matter who you are, whether you live in times of Neach, in times of Avraham Avinu, in times of Chizkiyahu HaMelech, in times of Moshe Rabbeinu, in times of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, times of the Rebbe, times of the Baal Shem Tov, times of the Alter Rebbe, times of the Rambam, times of Rashi. It shouldn't make any difference. Because these definitions are Shemois Toyarim. They're not describing what you're doing, they're describing what you are. So we're ready to do Tzaddik, and the next Perek we're going to do Rasha, and the Perek after that we're going to start Beinani. But in each case, we're using definitions which don't change. They're not moody. They're not Lafi Erech. They're not relative. They're not subjective. They're absolute. And Perek Yud discusses Tzaddik. So the Rebbe begins V'hinei. In Perek Tes, we describe the Milchama. B'chama means Nefesh Elokis wants one thing, Nefesh Bahamas wants exactly the opposite, like I explained to you before at length. Says the Rebbe, now let's discuss the personalities engaged in this war. But what criteria, what rules of personality? The rules of personality that describe these personality types, these kinds of people, in such a way that the definitions do not change. So Perek Yud is Tzaddik. So the Rebbe, when a person gives strengthens, now She'elokis is godly. The Nilcham and it wages a battle kol kach to such a degree of success. Im habahamis, with the animals, ad, and the nature of the victory of the godly soul, the divine soul of the animal soul is so strong. Ad it divorces and is mevayed, it burns out, it purges, it cleans out, like you get rid of chametz. Harash about the evil which is in the animal soul. Michol, small from the left ventricle of the heart, which because of it's written in the pasuk of it's a pasuk in Chumash. You have to eradicate all evil. Right? One of the explanations why you have to punish criminals is because a society who hangs on to criminals has in its soul criminal. You have to get rid of the criminals to remove evil, because somehow cosmically, this is a bad word for 770, the karma of a nation that has bad people is that they have ashpah just by existing. The pasuk says you have to remove evil. And in our personal existence, in us as individuals, inside of us there's evil, you got to get rid of it. This fellow succeeded, says the Rebbe. Right, let's read it again. He has eradicated, he has cleaned out the evil. Shabbat, which is inside his neshama, mechol asmal from the left side of the heart, as the pasuk says, it's a mitzvah, it's a commandment to eradicate evil from within ourselves. It says, however, we're dealing with the kind of guy that although he succeeded, it's ein hara nepach l'tei. He's gotten rid of his bad, but he hasn't made his bad into good. That's the shem hatoyar. That's the absolute definition of a tzaddik v'ralei. You want to know what the Shem HaTorah of tzaddik v'ralei? I'm giving you a Ezehu tzaddik v'ralei. That you cannot come along to me and say, well, I have a different case in point. No. This definition is concrete. This definition is absolute. This never changes. Just like Osher never changes. If Osher means Tzaddik v'ralei never changes. The Shem HaTorah of Tzaddik v'ralei, if you define it by these two rules. Number one, he's eradicated evil from within himself. Number two, it hasn't become good. If you get rid of evil, it doesn't become good, that's Tzaddik v'ralei. Why? Let's read right. Yeah, you mind if I read it again? I'll read it again. Yeah. Third line from the page. Shemagayish, that he divorces, umavayid, and he purges out. Harashabah, the evil within him, Echol Asmo, from the left side of the heart, Mechikos, as the pasuk says. You have to eradicate, you have to purge out the evil from inside, and he removed evil from inside of himself. There's one problem. The evil has not become good. Says that a person who's in that condition, Nikro Tzaddik She'enigam, is called an imperfect tzaddik. Now we already know from earlier prakim, why is he called an imperfect tzaddik? Because he's v'tzaddik v'ra'alei. Because the truth is, this tzaddik, even though we're describing him as a tzaddik who was magadesh or mavayir sarah, it's not total. There's still evil in him. What's the raya? The hainu this means, sheyesh b'yadayin ma'at mez'eira. You have to understand, if a fellow destroys the evil within him, but does not succeed in transforming that evil into good, that means there's still some left. So we call it Megadesh or Mevayra Sarah, he got rid of it. And we call it Loy Nepachatayv. He had the transform the good. I want you to know that the truth is, a person who is Megadesh or Mevayra, but Loy Nepachatayv, you should know the little Ra left. No, so the little Ra left, so what is the meaning of the... If there's a little Ra left, so the first statement isn't true. So wait, I'll explain it to you. But these are two absolute definitions. The definition of a tzaddik v'ralei is two things. On the one hand, you say he's thrown the ra out completely. On the other hand, you say he hasn't. And the proof is that the evil has not become good. But somehow those definitions are not subjective. Somehow those definitions are absolute. Let's read Nacha B'Selev. Says the Rebbe Ella, the teretz is, how can you say both things? He eradicated it, but since it did not become transformed to good, it's proof it's not been eradicated. So the teretz is a poshet. He has evil, but the evil is submissive, is bottle to the good. Machmas miyute, because it's so small. So practically you say it's gone, because it's bottle kafel tape. Absolutely you say it's not gone. How do you know it isn't gone? You know it isn't gone not because you're a maven in that dakasara. Because you're a maven in Taif. Because if this Ra was Nepach L'Taif, you would know that. And since the Ra was not Nepach L'Taif, that's a Raya that the Ra, which is Megurish or Mavur, is still there in a state of Kofar L'Taif. In other words, I'm giving you an absolute definition of Tzaddik v'ralei. This is not moody. This is not today like this and tomorrow different. This is not relative. You know, you live in Williamsburg, you're a Tzaddik. You live in Borough Park, you're a Beinani. You live in Flatbush, you're a Tzaddik Gomer, Chveisvas. That's not the way this works. This is an absolute criteria. It's true always. You live in times of the Alter Rebbe, you're such and such. Times of the Mittler Rebbe, Psandish. That's not the way it works. These definitions are concrete. And there's two sides. One side is we say he's divorced and removed evil. The other side is that the fact that he has transformed it to good is proof he hasn't totally removed it. How do you resolve that conflict, the contradiction? The teretz is that the Ra is there, but it's Kofof L'Teiv. Says that that is the Shem HaTorah. That is the Ezehu Tzaddik v'ra'alei of the Pirkei Yovis. That's an absolute definition. Verstehst? V'lachei nidmelei, the person thinks, that perhaps his evil has totally been divorced and completely left and become good because it doesn't bother him. Says the Rebbe, but that's not the case. And you know what the proof is? Says the Rebbe, to be sure, if you succeeded in divorcing and eradicating the evil completely, all the evil in him, says the Rebbe, here's one of those bad words, automatic. This is an automatic. Period. It would become good. There's no such thing as the Yetzer Hara, which is totally dead, which is not transformed to good. It's automatic. So the fact that the Ra has not become Toiv is proof that there's some Ra left. Nevertheless, it's Taka v'Yigor v'Yelach, because it's not bothering you practically. Okay? So we have, you see what I'm doing, yeah? You see what I'm trying to do. I'm translating the words. I'm teaching the words. And that's what I'm really doing. What I'm trying to bring out is, the Alter Rebbe is trying to communicate to you, to us, a klarkeit, you understand? This is a clinical definition. This is not moody, this is nicht kahergish. This is an absolute definition that has two criteria. It's gone, but it's not gone. And he explains how you could say that it's gone, and you could say that it's not gone, and it's not a contradiction. That's the state of the Tzaddik V'Ralei. Okay? So now, one of the things that must be pointed out is this Gemara. It's a Gemara originally, right? That says Tzaddik she'einei gomur is a Tzaddik V'Ralei is a Tzaddik she'einei gomur. And the tzaddik v'teiv lei is a tzaddik gomer. Now understand. Api niglin in Gemara. What's a tzaddik v'teiv lei? A tzaddik v'teiv lei means the tzaddik was a good life. What's a tzaddik v'ralei? A tzaddik doesn't have such a good life. In other words, the phrases v'teiv lei and v'ralei are not describing his avodas Hashem. The v'teiv lei and v'ralei are describing his material condition. Was macht in gesund, in panos, in nachas, and so on. What about tzaddik gomer and tzaddik she'einei gomer? Perfect tzaddik, imperfect tzaddik, they're talking about their avodah. In other words, in Nigle, there's no connection at all between tzaddik she'einei gomer and tzaddik v'ralei. One is describing how much money you have, and how much health and wealth you have, and how much peace you have, and how much camaraderie you have, and so forth. And the other is describing how holy you are. But in the Tanya, we join the two together. Because the Tanya is not giving us a Shem HaMushal, a name which is subjective, which is relative, which is equivocal. We're giving us a Shem HaTaya, a definition which is like Ezeu Chocham, Ezeu Tzadik V'Ralei. This definition is never going to change. So I want you to know, when you approach the question of Tzadik V'Ralei, and you explain it in a Shem HaTaya, you give it a definition which is not equivocal, you should know that Tzadik V'Ralei and Tzadik She'einei Gomer are synonyms. It's the same thing. Why? Because even though in Shem HaMushal, Tzaddik V'Ralei means I'm a Tzaddik but I suffer, Gashmias. And Tzaddik She'einei Gomer means I'm a Tzaddik but I could be a bigger Tzaddik. In Chassidus they're one and the same. Tzaddik She'einei Gomer, Tzaddik V'Ralei means I'm a Tzaddik and inside me there's still a Ra. That is a Tzaddik She'einei Gomer. Hayruhach. This is one of the benefits you get from the Tanya, that when you're looking at it from an angle of Pnimius, two very different sets of terms. Tzaddik V'Tevla and Tzaddik V'Ralei, which is about Gashmias, and Tzaddik Gomer, Tzaddik She'einei Gomer, which is about Avoida, become the same. A Tzaddik V'Ralei is a Tzaddik She'einei Gomer, because there's still Ra inside of him. This is what the Alter Rebbe says. We're going to now talk about, now that we described the war, let's talk about the combatants. Let's talk about the personalities. But, this is Tanya. So we're not going to give moody definitions. We're not going to give definitions that are a reflection of what's going on in the world at a particular time. In our generation, we're tzaddikim, but they're great tzaddikim. I had a conversation with a Yid, was a Gvura Yid, I'm not going to say his name. A Gvura Yid, a strenger Yid, and with himself he's very streng. He's a big chos, he's a big Yirei Shamayim. And he's not young, he's much older than I. And I'm sure he doesn't love what he sees. So I said to him, what do you think of our generation? He says to me, tzaddikim! I was so not expecting that. I was expecting him to hear to scream first of all about tznius, and then about talking in shul, and then about not learning Torah. Tzaddikim! And before I had a chance to question him, he says, bigger tzaddikim than the previous generations. You know what kind of tests they have? It was very beautiful to hear a Yid that head of a dot tutzach. It's not chas v'sholem, a heter, but it's a limud chus, yeah? In the Tanya, there's no such definitions. There's no tzaddik based on the fact that there's big in the service. There's no such tzaddik. Not in Tanya. In Afabreng there is, in Avos Yisrael there is. But in Tanya, the definitions are toyarim. They're definitions which never change. They were the same in times of Moshe Rabbeinu, in times of David HaMelech, in times of Churban Bayis Rishon, in the times of the Chashmonaim, in the times of Churban Bayis Sheni, and Rabbi Akiva, and the Rambam, and Rashi, and the Baal Shem Tov, and the Alter Rebbe, and today it's the same definitions. So this is what it is. You understand? Tzaddik V'Ralei, it's Tzaddik She'einei Gomer. The fact that he has Ra inside of him is what makes him into a Tzaddik She'einei Gomer. Now, there's one thing I want to say. I'm talking too long, but I want to just finish this inyan, okay? When we started the Tanya, which is a few years ago, this is the third time you read in these classes, the base Medrash and Bonus. We learned Likutei Amorim, Sefer Shal Beinyanim, Likutei Amorim, Sharichas Ve'emunah, Likutei Amorim, Megas HaTshuva. The whole thing twice, and this is round 3. It's a big schus that Ariella has. I was like, gesund und stark, Riches Shabbat, freilich und gesund und mutig. That we're learning in your schus. We've been learning Tanya all these 20 years, more than 20 years, close to 30 years, 25 years. So we've done this before. And whenever we start the Tanya, I take out a chumash and I read you through the parsha. Right? The Tanya is based on the pasuk. What does the pasuk say? Right? We all know it from the Tanya, and if we don't know it from the Tanya, then we know it from the 12 psukim Umamari Chazal. Yeah. It is near to you hadava the matter, which means teira shebeksav and teira shebal peh, like Rashi says. Hateira shenitna lecha beksav bal peh. Mo'id, very much. It's very easy, near, not easy, near to a person to do it. Beficha ubavavcha laseisa, in your mouth, in your heart to do. And of course, the Alter Rebbe says in the title page of the Sefer Tanya Kadisha, Levayit Heitev Echel Korav Me'ed V'derech Haruch U'Ktorav Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach, to explain how it's possible. So now we all start learning Tanya as teenagers, and our first reaction is the Alter Rebbe says to me, "I'm a big Rasha, and I don't like feeling like a Rasha." And we went through, everybody when they started learning Tanya went through that experience. And Chas v'Sholom, it should lead to callousness and to callous reish. You have to embrace it and you have to do work. The message of the Tanya is not that you're bad. The message of the Tanya is that you can change. We can change it. I can change it. Yeah, but we all went through that experience. So you look at this pasuk and you say, "Who's Moshe Rabbeinu kidding?" First, how could he even say such a thing? Beinani is such a high madrege. Rabbi Hillel Parasha said, "Halavai Beinani." Al Rebbe says it in Tanya Chav Zayin. Halavai Beinani. Halavai Beinani. Rabbi Hillel Parasha. I remember once the Rebbe. I remember where I was standing. It was after the Rebbetzin passed. Rebbe speaks. I was standing mamish near here. It was night. It was still a bachar, I think. And the Rebbe mentioned Halavai Beinani for a Hillel. And you could almost feel how the Rebbe got uncomfortable. Because if a Yid says Halavai Beinani, what is he saying? When a person says Halavai Beinani, what is he really saying? That he's a Rasha. How could a Yid say about himself that he's a Rasha? And the Rebbe said, it's real. The Rebbe went, there's no Rishayim. Oh, you're not good. I mean, the way the Rebbe got uncomfortable. He quoted Rabbi Hillel. I think, I'm almost certain, he quoted Rabbi Hillel. And Rabbi Hillel was a big chassid, and Rabbi Hillel said, Halavai Beini, and then the Rebbe paused. And he had to excuse me, how could Halavai Beini? The Gemara says, Ein Adam Meisa Matmi Rashi. Now let us say about yourself, you're a Rasha. And he went to a whole head, but Halavai Beini doesn't mean you're a Rasha. It just means that you're a work in progress, that every day you have to make sure to be a Beinani again. But I remember how the Rebbe had problems with the expression Halavai Beinani. A Rebbe has problems with the expressions of Halavai Beinani, you understand? Anoshim Kerkeinu, we don't have a kasha on Halavai Beinani. Yeah. But when you learn the pasuk, Kikorev Elecha, you wonder how could Moshe Rabbeinu say, even to the Yidden in that generation, Korev Elecha Adav Me'ed, the Gemara in Legabe Moshe Milsa Zutra Sehi, if it's easy for Moshe Rabbeinu, it's easy for us. What kind of game is this? So of course the teretz says Moshe Rabbeinu can say what he wants, doesn't need our permission. But there's another teretz. You have to look at the psukim before. What are the psukim before? Ki ha-mitzvah azeh teshanechi mitzvah b'chayim. These mitzvahs. Le'nefleisi lecha v'le'recheki. I'm giving you Torah mitzvahs. You should know le'nefleis as is nit wunderish. It's not wondrous. Le'recheki, it's not far away. Leiba Shamayim, it's not in Shamayim. And then it adds Leimer to say Mi Yalalanu Hashamayim. If it would be Bashamayim, we would have to make ladders. It actually says we make sulames. Climb up into the Shamayim. V'yikacheha Aleinu, bring it down to us. V'yashmeinu Ois, and teach it to us. V'nasena, we should do it. V'leimer, even Layami, it's not across the Yam. Leimer, because it would be across the Yam, we'd have to take it. Rashi says Sphines, ships, and travel across the sea. Mi Yavalanu Aleiva Yam. Who's going to cross to the other side of the Yam? V'yikacheha and take it to us. V'yashmeinu Ois, and teach it to us. V'nasena, we're going to do it. And then it says Ki korev elecha dava me'ed b'ficha b'bavcha l'seisa. You see, there's a context. The context is that there's 4 levels: nifleis and recheka, bashamayim, me'v'layam. And Moshe says loy nifleis, loy recheka, loy bashamayim, loy me'v'layam. Then he says korev. So to explain the Chassidus, I always tell you this vort, and I tell you I don't know where I saw it. I saw it in video Tshuva Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek explains it in this Seder. Nifleis means tainug. Rechoika means rotz. Bashamayim means chochma and bina. And Me'evel Hayam means the midas. Lo nifleis, Hashem is not asking that you should serve Hashem with a delight in godliness. Lo rechoiki, Hashem is not asking you to serve Hashem on the level of Mesiras Nefesh. Lo bashamayim, the Eibush is not asking you to serve Hashem on a level of chochma, bina, vadas. The Eibush is not asking you to serve Hashem on a level of chesed, gevurah, teferes, engaging in midas. All he wants is beficho, bevavcha, laseisei, machshova, dibur, meiser. Thought, speech, and action. In other words, it doesn't answer the original question, but it frames it. Moshe Rabbeinu is not saying out of the blue, being a Benyani is easy. Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, if the Eibush don't want it, you know what he could demand. And you know what would happen if the Eibush demanded for us to be tzaddikim? We'd have to be tzaddikim. You know why? He makes us b'chol rega v'rega ma'ayim b'efas amuchot liyesh. We're kind of dependent, huh? Yeah, you fill out taxes, you write on the tax paper dependence. Our dependency on the Eibishter is a lot more than the dependence that we write in our tax returns. Verstehst? He makes us from nothing into something every second. He can demand anything he wants. So when you look at it from that angle, he's a Sheina Eibishter. If he wanted, it could be Nifleis. If he wanted, it could be Rechoik. If he wanted, it could be Bashamayim. If he wanted, it could be V'layam. He's only asking B'fir Chalav Chalaseis. It doesn't make it any easier, but you say, okay, stop complaining. Complainish, yeah. Nu, yes, Fregov Kuri, ask the question backwards. If the Eibush is not demanding of these things from us, so why does Moshe have to tell them to us? Moshe says, loy nifleis, lei b'shamayim, lei nifleis, lei rechekel, lei b'shamayim. If the Eibush is not expecting all these things from us, all he's expecting is ki karev elachadav may beficha. Let's say only say that one pasuk. Now, if he said only that one pasuk, we would complain. So he says all the psukim. But since all the psukim, he says loy, so we ask why does he put him there? So you have a Jewish question, no solution. Whatever you say is no good. And the teretz of the poshet azach, that when it says loy nifleis and loy rechekel and loy b'shamayim loy mevelayam, that's talking about all Yidden. But there are yechidei segula. There are some Yidden that their avodah is loy nifleis, not with pele, not with me. There are some Yidden whose avodah is to engage in these inyanim. In the Rebbe's Rishimis, in our Rebbe's journal, which you could learn and learn and learn and learn. I should really reread it again. He asked the Frierdiker Rebbe about a certain inyan. It could be about 4 pages of film, but the Frierdiker was talking about a certain inyan. And the Rebbe, Zolgezunzain, our Rebbe, who was a young man, he was in his 30s, early 30s, said to the Frierdiker Rebbe, quote, "Das ist von mir an Inyan. This is something that I should be involved with." And the Frierdiker Rebbe answered, "Von dir is jede Sache an Inyan." The Frierdiker tells the Rebbe, everything is your Inyan. This is a Rebbe mit a Rebbe. Von mir, this isn't the Rebbe's Yeshivas. Why don't we talk about this more, huh? Von mir is das an Inyan. Should I be doing this? 4 pieces of film, whatever it is. So the Frierdiker tells the Rebbe, everything. For you, everything. Not for all of us, but for you, everything. So there's Yid whose avoid is me'evel hayam. That's a tzaddik she'eni gom. It's a tzaddik v'ra'aleh. What's his avodah? To make his midas perfect. His emotion should have no ra. To eradicate, just like it says over here, vayigadish vayimavayir, the ra, by a beinani, that it should not interfere with the machshava dibur ma'aseh. There's a tzaddik v'ra'aleh who's magadish mavayir the ra from his me'evel hayam. Yam is malchus, me'evel hayam is the midas. And he has to purge out any ra from his midas, that his midas should be completely menupe, mevurer, umezuchach, that there should be no uniqueness achitzenim from his midas. But that fellow who's told your avoida is be megarish mevar on the level of Ebel Yam, when it comes to Bashamayim, his Rebbe says to him, Loi Bashamayim, Shamayim is not for you. Why? You're takat tzaddik, but you're not such a big tzaddik. And there's another Yida tzaddik who also has a Rebbe, and by the way, everybody needs a Rebbe, but a tzaddik really needs a Rebbe. He comes to his Rebbe, the Rebbe says, for you, is outside you. You have to work also Bashamayim. It's not enough that you have to eradicate. From your left, from your heart, you have to be from your mind. And then he comes to his Rebbe and says, what about the Choykihi? What about my Rotzen? Which means basically the idea that a Yid has to serve Hashem every minute of his life in a level of Mesiras Nefesh. So the Rebbe says, no. Fadil das nish kenyan. That's above your pay grade. Du bist a tzaddik she'einei gomer. You're not a perfect tzaddik. It's not for you. A third tzaddik comes to the Rebbe. Oh, this is for you. You understand? And that's the pshat. There's different levels of tzaddik. All tzaddiks v'ra'aloi share two properties. Number one, v'yagadesh v'yavar lei legamri v'yelech lei. Number two, loy nepach l'teiv mamish, which is a raya that there's ra, which is kofaf l'teiv. That's the shem hatoyar of tzaddik v'ra'aloi. But tzaddik v'ra'aloi is madreges. One has become a tzaddik because he's cleaned out the lowest layer of the subconscious of the neshama, which is the midas. Not subconscious, the previous of the neshama, which is the midas. Another is a higher tzaddik she'einei gomer, because mavara also the moyach, and so higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. All of the tzaddikim she'einam gemurim share the two definitions and the qualifier, right? All those things apply to every tzaddik v'na'alei. They're just on different levels. What the Rebbe is going to call later, batal b'shishim, batal b'meya, batal b'vasayim, batal b'elef, that the ra is batal in 60, in 100, in 200, in 1,000. These are different degrees of tzaddik v'na'alei. But all of them fall into the precise, the absolute category of tzaddik v'na'alei. There's no equivocation here because they all fit all of these rules. Did we understand? I think we understood, yeah? I would like to believe we understood. Okay, if you have questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we're going to break, and then we'll do Hayyin.